Hello, everybody. Wherever you might be, I'm laughing because I'm happy because the NBL season is in full swing. And honestly, we've only got a couple of more sleeps before we're back at it again. We are NBL Overtime, but honestly, you probably already knew that. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved. Liam, Sand and Maria, hello to you, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I am good. Another very fun round of upsets.
Yeah.
We just had just then.
We'll get to the upsets part in a moment, but today, of course, you know what today is?
Big day.
Big day. So you and I will be at 11 or 12. It was
12.
a Sunday. The Melbourne Tigers won all. The Wildcats in the West. They've never won over there. And our man Copeland went bang. 30 years today. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. It's a long time ago. That's
It was.
a long time ago, Cam. How old were you then?
I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you there, game one?
Game one I was.
No doubt.
Game one was
sold out.
huge.
Sold out.
So there you won by 2 points, I think. 107-105. That's off the memory. I could be wrong, but it was a very close game. Game two, 7 or 8 points. What'd you lose?
7 points, I think we lost by, but it was a very close game as well.
And you rolled out of bed on a Sunday morning in Perth. Did you know you were going to win the championship?
I knew we were going to give it our best shot. Best shot, man. We had to have it.
Did you know you were going to pour on 35?
I knew I needed to do something special. I mean, look, there was some talent on that team, and they tend to double team Drury and go at Drury in the playoffs a lot, and that's where I sort of try to pick it up.
Turn away Andrew Vlahov. Now. Did you think that was in, Coach?
I did. And you see the fans in the back stand up as if the ball was going in. And
now this is interesting. That's the second one, right? The first one, or it might have been the second one. The Coke bottle got thrown onto the court.
Down.
Yeah, and the referee never called it back. The irony of that Andrew Vlahov shot is you had the identical shot a few years later, didn't you? When it went in and out, and it looked like you were going to win the championship on the same thing. But 30 years. 30 years. I assume you've had a big weekend of partying. You and Andrew Gase just hit the town for 3 days.
Yeah, we would have been out every night.
I mean, this weekend just gone.
Hanging out every night, of course. Me and Andrew Gase. You believe that?
No, I do not.
We had dinner, and just good to catch up with the guys and reminisce.
Which one of the group, or one or two, were you kind of happy to hadn't seen for a while?
I hadn't seen Robert Sibley, who's the funniest guy in the world, cracks jokes about everything and everybody, and it was good to see Andrew Walter, Steve Leonard, and look, man, Giddy, I see Giddy everywhere, and I see Julie everywhere.
Lumpy,
and then Brecky everywhere, but it was just good to. And I want to thank.
Looking sharp too, just quietly, my man.
Thank you, bro. I want to thank Melbourne United for doing this for us, man. It was fantastic. Truson and Eric Wickstrom, they really did a good job of putting this together. And I want to say thanks to those guys.
Andrew Walter looks younger now than he did.
He does,
He looks
He does
incredibly
not
great. He looks great. He's great. A former teammate of yours, right? There we go. All right, hashtag NBL Overtime. Congratulations to you, of course. 30 years today as the Melbourne Tigers fans no doubt are in YouTube right now and rewatching that game the moment we are done. But let's stay with that game because Melbourne United were really good. Did you? I know you were there commentating. What did you make of it? Once the glow of the halftime festivities wore down, what did you make of the second half of Melbourne United?
Well, I thought with no Ian Clark, no Dellavedova, they were going to struggle a little bit defensively. And I said that to Liam. And the Hawks were very good the first half. I mean, they fed Clark. He was good. I think he was 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 early. They moved the ball. They played defense. Robinson was good distributing the ball. So they looked a lot better. And I got to give them credit because now they're playing, they're competing. And that's all you want.
Absolutely.
But Melbourne United, Chris Goulding, what can you say about him?
Well, you can say that he's just playing at an unbelievable level. Like these last 2 games, the shots that he's hit, I mean, the 33 here against Illawarra, they were right there on so many of these contests. They're throwing with a hand in the face and, here Harvey gets right to where you kind of need to be on a contest like that without fouling, and he's knocking them down. Now, think back to the game against New Zealand the previous week. The 3 in the corner where he's fallen out of bounds, the 3 up the top when he's beating the shot clock. He just seeing the hoop. Like it's just so big for him right now. He's just throwing the ball into the ocean.
I got a question for you, Jeff.
Hit me.
And I've been talking about Goulding for the last 5 years and how he needs the ball. Now, they put some help around him, so he doesn't get the ball as much. Does this game show he can still carry a team?
Yeah, I mean, did anybody doubt that at any point?
I don't think they doubt it, but I think because they put so much help around him, sometimes you don't use him enough or he didn't get the ball enough. And as you've seen, when he's hot like that, And he does it consistently when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes he takes tough shots because he doesn't see the ball. But if you're feeding him and you're running plays for him, he can carry that team.
Truth, you're right. I don't think anyone's ever questioned that, even though he hasn't had to do it as much in recent years. And I think the true testament to what he does is when he missed that Game 3 semi-final against Tassie. And honestly, Melbourne United just looked horrible offensively.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it plays a little bit to his ego as well. And I mean, lack thereof, because even though you're right, he's got to that age, he's mid-30s, and he can do that. He's an Olympian and a bronze medalist and part of the Boomers team still. He absorbs what is the best thing for the team. They've brought in Ian Clark. They've brought in Travers.
Yeah.
They've brought in JLA. So he's been able to evolve, yet when he's needed to. And traditionally, we've always said this on this show, he's the most important person at Melbourne United because he gets the crowd going contagiously. John goes nuts, right? Yeah. So when he's doing stuff like that, people are just like, you know what, this is what he can do. But his ability to be able to absorb and organically grow with the best for the team, knowing that he's really only 2 3-pointers away from that joint going nuts is the big reason they've been so good.
Not everyone can do that.
There's very few people in the league who can do it.
Yeah, and look, Chris Golding's not Michael Jordan. I'm not making that comparison. But we all watched The Last Dance, and we know the journey that Jordan took, right? And when Phil Jackson convinced him, listen, you've got to, it's not just about you. If we're going to win the championship, it's got to be about these other guys as well. Now, on a poorer team, Chris, if he was just getting given the rock, he would lead the league in scoring and he'd be in the MVP conversation.
No doubt.
But instead, what he is back-to-back All-NBL second team. But Dean Vickerman has been so good for him and Melbourne United because he's said, Chris, you're absolutely unbelievable, but I need you to be a leader in so many different other ways. And we need other guys to be elite. Joe Luala-Chul, it was Jock Landale, it was Casper Ware, it was Ty Wesley at times. And now everybody's getting a piece of the pie. And as a result, they are clearly and easily the team to beat.
I think if you, while it is 5 years ago, you look back to that first half of that Game 5 against Adelaide, right? It was an unbelievably loaded team that didn't necessarily need him to have 30 points a game, and then you have half of basketball where it's just on his shoulders. He just rips it apart, and the title becomes theirs. They are by far the championship favourites. And was it Derek Rucker who spoke about their depth of guard? I think it was D. Rucker. If it wasn't, I apologise to who it was. Like, you got Golding. You've got Matthew Dellavedova, NBA champion. You've got Ian Clark, NBA champion. You've got Shea Illy, who is just a star and has been for a long period of time. Flynn Cameron played really well on the weekend as well. And you've got Luke Travers, who can play a little bit, if needed, not necessarily needed all that much. To have that four-headed guard prong is unbelievable. And I know Illawarra played really well on the weekend.
Yes.
No Clark, no Dellavedova. No Clark, no Dellavedova. Yeah. And still, honestly, they were in cruise control, and no one ever really felt that Melbourne United wouldn't win that game as much as Illawarra were better. They are so stacked. It should be scary for the opposition right now and the rest of the team.
There was a time, though, we watched that game, Liam. There was a time when we said, wait a minute now, because Illawarra are playing, I said this, no Dellavedova, no Ian Clark up front to disturb the guard play from Illawarra. Then they look a little bit slow. They look a bit less defensive. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Illawarra took advantage of that.
Yeah. And Melbourne still won.
Yeah. Of course they did.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the point here, is that they're so far, I think, in advance of the rest of the competition. They'll lose a game every now and then. They lost to Tasmania on their home floor. They got belted by Doyle in the final term. But as Cam said, you said they won't win back-to-back games.
They won't lose back-to-back games all year, and that's my call before the season. I stand by it.
And then the way they're built, the way they play, you trust that in a playoff series. So I think the whole rest of the competition right now would be looking at Melbourne United saying, man, they are the haves, and we right now are kind of all the have-nots.
Of course, and guess what? A week and a half ago, we were talking about how well Tasmania were playing, okay? And we were talking about how well Sydney Kings were playing.
Yeah.
Small injury here, couple of losses there, and then all of a sudden someone else is leading the league and trying to win a championship. So, yes, Melbourne are in front, but you got to look at South Melbourne, who were right there.
True. You know, Melbourne I don't think they've had their full roster play yet either. You talk about injuries; they have had injuries,
and everyone's had injuries.
Right? Absolutely. I will just say this quickly before.
Yeah. Yes, no. Well, to me, it just reminds me, and we'll see how it all plays out, but it does remind me of that Jock Landale-led Melbourne United team where he said, listen, we're going to go undefeated. Yeah. It kind of all season we were like, they're the best team, and it felt like, and then in the end they won it, and they smashed Perth in that championship series. I don't know. I just feel like this season is a little bit like that.
There's a little revenge mode as well. Didn't make the playoffs last year. They had their opportunities late. And I like, Chris Golding said after the game, they playing the full 40 minutes out. That's something we've discussed a little bit on this show. Playing the... It matters. Every single point matters. In the end, they got the Tijuana because they fell a couple of points short. I will say, too, that this happens a lot, right? Yeah. We see a loaded roster and they're playing so well. Dean Vickerman is coaching really well.
Yeah.
I think he's coaching very well. And too often we just look at the players and be like, they're the best team. But Dean Vickerman's been able to get all these guys to buy in. You mentioned CG there. You got JLA who comes back in, had to pay big cash to bring him back. But Hook Porty's playing as well as he has ever played as a professional. I know he's still a kid. And he's still just saying, all right, you're coming off the bench. He's got Luke Travers playing good basketball. He's got Bowen who comes in was huge in Tassie. Then there's Flynn Cameron who comes in. And then Tanner Krebs. He's been able to continually find the right mix in games. So whilst they are loaded, I think Dean Vickerman's doing a really nice job.
I think it's a good point. But the bit about they're not going to lose 2 games in a row at any point that is going to be tough.
Absolutely.
Is that all teams have a lull at some point. That's right. And they start thinking that they're the best. They look at the ladder. We're 4 games clear. And they tend to drop off. You for some reason, you just feel like this team's not going to do that.
Look, I should have put an asterisk on it that it may be the last weekend of the season if they get me to play a couple of minutes when the minor championship's already
so you think
all settled
they're
up.
that much better than every other team in the league?
I do right now, yes. I do. Well, last week we were sitting around doing backflips. Bogues goes on his podcast and says Tassie are by far the championship favourites.
That's what I mean.
Melbourne rolled down to Tassie and just belt them.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, they should have belted them by a lot more.
That's why it's hard to say one team is so much better than any other team. Tassie were rolling. We were talking about Tassie like they're the best thing since sliced bread. And then they lose 2. And now we're not talking about that.
Yeah.
I love sliced quickly. Hey, I tell you, talk about changing quickly. Let's give a big shout out to Brisbane because they've had their ups and downs. They started nicely. The Aaron Baines situation, of course. Only one of us made a prediction that they'd be in the top 4, which we'll revisit in a moment. But I'll start with you, Copes, because it's sometimes when things aren't going well, and it's a little quicksand, you're trying to get out of it, and you just continue to sink deeper. But then all of a sudden, you get a spring and things change, and that's what happened Friday night in Perth. Tassie go to town. They can let the weekend be a 1-on-1 split. They don't. They go 2-0, and the whole vibe changes in Brisbane.
It just looked like Sobey put this team on his back. Like, Sobey can come out and take good shots, and sometimes Sobey can take bad shots. But it seemed like he was the leader of this team. He said, fellas, let's just slow it down, get good shots. If we can beat Perth in Perth, who are not playing great basketball, then we're going to be okay. And remember, they still got Baines to come back.
Yeah.
So, you got to feel good about them, like Liam said.
Shannon Scott as well, of course. They're missing 2 guys over this weekend in Baines and Shannon Scott, who, when they put together this roster, was absolutely 100% 2 of the central figures of them playing good basketball.
Yeah, now, let's keep it in perspective. They didn't just beat Sydney in Sydney.
Right.
Or Melbourne in Melbourne, or the South East Melbourne squad that's absolutely rolling. They beat a Perth team that's in turmoil.
Yep.
Always a good win if you can win in the jungle.
Absolutely.
No matter what's going on. But it is what it is.
Yep.
And then, yes, Tasmania have been fantastic, but they were at home. They didn't go down and do it in Tasmania like Melbourne just did. So 2 good wins to end a 4-game losing streak. But that's how you steady your ship and you get things back on track.
But it's got to be relative. I understand what you're saying, but it's got to be relative. 7 days ago, again, everyone's sitting here. Tassie go on the road. They beat Sydney on the road. They beat Melbourne on the road. They played really well. So, I get what you're saying. Real wet blanket type of stuff from you right now. But the fact is that they still, and it's relative, without Baines, without Shannon Scott. And the fact is that we all thought Brisbane, free fall's way too dramatic, but we thought they were going to really have their struggles. So, be a bit more positive, man, or you won't be allowed back in Brisbane.
Very positive.
Put your coaching hat on right now. Put your coaching hat on.
I don't have one. But
Baines comes back this week, yeah. Harrison's starting to play well. He's starting to find himself. He's finding his groove. He's dunking on people. He's knocking down the little turnaround shot. Do you put Baines back in the starting lineup? Or do you...
Who do they play?
I think is it Southeast Melbourne?
They play Southeast Melbourne.
They play Big Sauce?
Big Sauce.
They play our man?
Yeah.
You need Big Banger out there.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
So I'm with you. Harrison's playing really well, and that's part of being able to find the right consistency and chemistry. But Baines is your guy, right? So he's got to be able to go back in, and they've got to stay at that level with Baines added. Now, I'm surprised. I don't know about you, Copes, but I'm so surprised by the negativity here from the next host GM because let's just rewind a couple of weeks because he was all before the season had started and then had a bit of a rough pre-season. He's all up and about. Have a look at this. Your big call is.
My big call is that the Brisbane Bullets are going to make the playoffs.
Is that the final four or the six?
It's the final four when we get there.
Okay.
Wow.
So they will be in the final
when
four.
we get to that 3-game series, and there's 2 of them happening to see who plays off in the championship series.
They will be there. Now, before we go any further, I want this on the record. That legitimately was NBL Overtime 6 weeks ago. Dude. Not today. We didn't record that. We got the same stuff on.
I like them.
Wow.
Yeah, I like what they're about. That is incredible. I like what Justin Schuller's doing with this team.
Yes.
I really believe in him as an NBL head coach. You talk about being in four losses in a row and you're in quicksand and it just makes it worse and worse.
Yeah.
Actually, he's been talking to them about their habits, daily habits, what we do on a daily basis, possession after possession after possession. And they just sort of went back to that. It's real sort of Scott Roth, Dean Vickerman sort of stuff.
Yep.
I messaged Stu Lash last week after they'd lost 4 in a row and I said, mate, it's awfully cold and windy on here right now and lonely. And he said, yep. But the forecast on Brisbane Island is clear and no damage has been done by the storm to the house's infrastructure.
I like it.
Wow. He's positive.
Hey, just quickly, so while you're talking about WhatsApp, have you reached out to anyone in Perth?
Maybe.
Okay, well, have you? Well, what is the feeling in Perth? The Red Army will right now tell us that it is stuffed. It was a rough weekend.
Yeah.
It's continually getting rougher.
Been a rough year.
Yeah, well...
So far.
Well, they beat Tassie, but since then, you're right, it hasn't been overly good. I'm going to start with you, Copes.
Yeah.
Where to now for the Wildcats? When you see this Perth team play, where to next?
Well, look, the owners come out and said he has full support. I mean, the coaches have full support. He's backing everyone, the imports. If I'm John Rillie, I got to change the lineup. I got to do something to look like I got to change something to let the fans know we're trying something different. Because what I'm doing right now isn't working.
Okay, so what is it? The media are absolutely all over them, and that's what happens in a mad, passionate sporting and basketball town like Perth is.
Because
there's the good and the bad. Absolutely.
The
there's the good and the bad. So when they're winning, the media are absolutely, like a lot of these great sporting cities around the world, and when things aren't going all that well, we'll hear a little bit from Hutchie in a couple of minutes' time. What would you do then? What is the move you would make? You've been in the coaching realm.
I just think they need a point guard that's going to find Cotton, get Cotton going. You're not going to win games if Cotton's not going. If Cotton's playing and he's on the floor and he's shooting the way he's shooting, I'm not saying it's all their fault that Cotton has to knock down shots, but I just don't think he's in the right system. He's not running, the plays aren't for him. Too many guys have open shots, and Cotton's standing there in the corner, and we talked about it last week, waiting on his opportunity.
So you would bring an import point guard in, you would release someone?
I would find someone, a point guard or someone to get him the ball, and a defensive point guard, somebody that plays defense.
I didn't think that, I thought they should have gone a point guard when they in fact went and got Doolittle. When they were overplaying the G League Ignite games and Alexander Sarr was having 20 and 10 and blocking 6 shots a game and Keanu was just coming back from injury, I felt like the play then was to just keep it rolling with Alexander. Maybe play him some minutes at the 4 alongside Keanu. You got Jesse, you got Hiram Harris. I felt like you could plug that. What you didn't have, I think, is what you're talking about, is that point guard.
A Norton type, a Damo type.
A Shannon Scott type, a Peyton Seaver type, a guy that could get Bryce the rock and put it under his arm and say, hey, listen, go and sit the down screen for Bryce because we're playing off him. That's not happening.
That's right.
It's come and set a ball screen for me so I could get into the lane and see what I can create. One thing I think I would do is bring Ben Henschel into the rotation. Now, is he the messiah and the solution to all the problems? No. But I don't understand why he's not playing. He didn't play in the first game. Then he got minutes and he had 24, which was historic stuff for a guy on debut. And he hasn't, I don't know if he's seen the floor since. And that seems to me a bit strange.
The Wildcats in history usually holds their import spot till later in the season. Things aren't going well, then we find what we need and pump it up. Now, when I said that earlier in the year, I got a little bit of criticism from some of the people in Perth. Saying, well, we got who we want. And that's fair enough. But imagine now going to find that point guard or somebody you really need.
Well, mate, you know, you're right. We're going to get to a break. Olgun Rillie to join us in a matter of minutes. But you are right about finding Bryce Cotton. He just looks tired, which they don't have anyone to guard anyone at the other end. Sobey went to work. When they played Melbourne United, they got whatever they wanted. When they play these teams, you know, DJ nearly had a triple-double. Yes. When they play these teams with star guards, which is almost every team in the NBL, it's either Bryce Cotton have to working through screens and guard one of these guys, and it's wearing him down, or the other guy just goes to absolute town on them. They do need a point guard, but he needs to be defensive-minded, so Bryce Cotton and Ty Webster don't have to get in front and stop someone, which hasn't always been their main strength.
Yeah, it's funny. In some situations, that the best thing to do, like for Brisbane, was to just keep going. What did Will Weaver used to call it? Chop wood, carry water. Yeah. Just keep doing it, because it's going to come good. I think this situation needs a change.
Yes.
So whether it's you know what, Alexander Sarr is coming into the starting line, and everyone just sees, okay, we've changed something. Yep. This is what we need. Here we go.
Yes.
I can, of course. So next star into. I didn't see that one coming. Quick break. A little more on Perth and all the latest news with Olgun Rillie on the other side of this. It is NBL Overtime.
You're a funny guy.
We have a head coach. His name's John Rillie. We're really supportive of him. And that's where it begins and ends. We've got some good music playing from time to time, but the band hasn't been in perfect harmony with each other. And they are restless to correct that. We equally both understand that we're working inside the most passionate and committed fan base in the country. Rachel is defending her partner with love and care, and everyone can empathise with that moment and that time. We had a chat to Bryce, as you'd expect, as a club, and those conversations remain private. We ask for patience, a little bit more patience if you're prepared to give it to us, but we equally accept what you have to say along the way.
Craig Hutchison last night on Channel 10 News in Perth. About 15 different angles to roll through this Perth Wildcats situation. Olgun Rillie in the house from ESPN. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. I don't know where to start with this stuff. Like I feel like the comments are obviously where we should. Craig Hutchison had to say something. Whether that appeases some of the frustrations of the Red Army is a different question, but he had to say something. There is just so much frustration within that organisation right now, and it's within the front office of trying to figure out why this team they built isn't working, and then it's starting to bleed into the playing group to an extent where there is frustration growing, and we've also seen that bleed into the public with Rachel Cotton saying some stuff.
Did you have any issue, Copes, with the Rachel Cotton comments? Like, what are your thoughts when you did see them?
Well, you got to remember, back in my day, there was no social media, so you know you'd hear wives talk about things like that. But sort of, she's defending her partner, you know, because obviously he's going home frustrated, you know, and he didn't want to say anything. He's a quality guy, so she felt like she had to do it. So good on her.
Do you have an issue with it?
Yeah, I don't think it helps. Yeah, it doesn't help. Now, in fairness, she didn't put that out as her own post or her own tweet saying, I want to tell the world this. Right. She was responding to a comment from somebody in a group. So maybe she foolishly thought it would stay there. But it didn't.
You said it didn't help. It got the ball rolling. It just got people talking about it more. So it might get the ball rolling where they might change some things. So maybe it does help.
Look, I don't know. I haven't been in a situation no one's ever felt the need to defend me. But legitimately,
we got you back, Cam. We got you, bro.
I got no dramas with it. Legitimately, what she said there, I think a lot of people are thinking, right? Yes. People just attach it in because she's Bryce Cotton's partner. So again, I'm sure it's not a thing that everyone wants. I have no idea how Bryce feels about it, but we read it and we're like, you know what? There's a fair bit of truth there, and why shouldn't she be able to express her feelings just because she's married to the guy that we all talk about on a regular basis?
The thing about it, so like Liam said, it was a post that was critical of Bryce, and so she felt the need to come out in support of him. The other problem is, though, that there is some consternation growing among the players. I was told during that Perth-Brisbane game that there was some words exchanged between some of the starters, and words that I would consider unhealthy for being exchanged during a game. And so this is something that is brewing, and it's starting to brew on the inside, and the fact that it reaches a public forum, I don't know if it's the catalyst for change, right? I guess it can get the conversation flowing, like Cope said, but again, is this the thing that's going to expedite change in the franchise? If that change is needed, I don't know.
Is it fair to say they have talent in every position? There's talent.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out. I mean, sometimes guys just don't bond. It takes a little longer. So yes, we're being critical of the team, and they should be playing a lot better. But sometimes A and B just didn't fit. You know what I mean? We went out to get talent in the 1. We got talent in the 2. We wanted a 5-man. We wanted some defense. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. Now, you got to make some changes to try to get it to work.
Yeah, well, the defense, I think, is an important one, right? Like, they really need to start defending at a higher level. And the idea with this group was that would start with Jordan Usher.
Yep.
That's kind of what he was brought in here to do. And Jordan Usher's 35-point opening night kind of reminds me of, like, when I was playing, the worst thing that would happen to me in my game is if I made an early 3.
Rare, as rare as it was.
No, you know, if the guy slipped under the screen and I let one fly and it went down, I would go on to have a poor game. Now, he didn't go on to have a poor game. He had a great game. But he's had a poor season since then because he's lost track of what he's really good at. I was really good at attacking the rim, and I would lose track of that if something else took me away from it. He's supposed to be sitting down and guarding and being the head of their defensive snake and bringing them energy and juice at that end of the floor. And he's been a little bit of a barroom door, unfortunately, at the defensive end. So I think part of it, we talk about Bryce and this and that. One of the things that would help is that if he turned back into the defensive guy that he said he was when he arrived, and that he showed signs of being in pre-season.
And who they expected. Yeah.
So 2 things on that. The first is, before the season, the whispers around the NBL was that would the personalities in Perth mesh? We've seen Perth over the years. How are they successful? It's Bryce, and it's these high-level imports, but they're surrounded by your complementary guys. They're surrounded by ancillary players who make them better. And so, is Jordan Usher that guy? Is Ty Webster that guy? Ty Webster's being paid like an import point guard, right? Is he the guy that's going to complement the best player in your team? That's the question that a lot of people around the league were asking, whether the personalities, that they're really high-octane personalities, would they fit? And then to your point, from the first segment, the player that they theoretically need is a Mitch Norton, and they're paying half his salary to be in Brisbane this season. And so this is another thing that this team probably doesn't want to do, and why I think we saw a full-throated support of John Rillie. He's contracted for the remainder of this season, contracted for next season too. They're paying Mitch Norton half his contract this season. They're paying half of Todd Blanchfield's contract for this season and next as well. And so you don't want to be a franchise, and if you're Craig Hutchison, you don't want to be someone who's paying people to not be on your team.
Yeah, that's true. Can I jump in real quick? Just while we're talking about John Rillie. I really, really hope they turn this thing around and that they back John Rillie in and that they pick it up and they're a championship contender. We have seen over the years, and Bogut made this point on his podcast today, he was making a similar point to that about Bryce playing with role players and how that used to really work out well. But he also said, listen, like in our first championship year a couple of years ago, Chase Buford, I mean, we were 3-6. And we didn't swing the axe on our brand new coach who was contracted for the following year. We backed him in and we turned it around. We won the title. And I think about like some of the great coaches in NBL history, like Andre Lamanis' first season in New Zealand was poor. And then they won 3 championships because they backed him in. Dean Vickerman spoke the other week, coming up to 300 games, saying, my first season in New Zealand was poor. We missed the playoffs. And that Breakers at that time didn't miss them. They had Mika Vakona and these types of guys. And then he went on to win the championship the following year. So I don't know. There is something to be said for backing these types of guys in and turning it around.
Just before I say about John Rillie what I want to say, let's just hear what he had to say a couple of days ago.
We're generating some good opportunity. We're just not capitalising. And as I told them after the game, like this is a group I believe in. When you're usually 2-5, you probably start to really waver from your mindset of a group. We will figure it out. There's 15 players and my staff. That's what really matters in this whole situation. We're the ones that got ourselves into it. We are the ones that will get ourselves out of it.
Won a playoff game last year, by the way. The Wildcats with John Rillie as the coach. Now,
Playoff.
No?
Play in.
Oh, hang on. We had this. Last year you all said it was a playoff game.
People will be all over you whether it's a playoff or...
Oh, well.
Yeah, but I hear you.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the point is that Look, again, does he have to work things out a little bit differently for all the things you did point out? You're right. Is this roster 100% perfectly constructed? I'm not as sure on that. But everyone just blames the coach. In all sports, everyone's just like, the coach has to go. Right. And I just don't think sacking a coach right now, regardless of financial ramifications, which do play a point, is the reason. I don't think John really is the reason his team is 2-5. Does he have to work it out? Absolutely he does, because that's his job. But John really is not the main reason his team's not going that well. I don't believe anyway.
Now, you're 100% right.
Thank you.
But it doesn't help that Trevor's hanging around.
It doesn't.
It does not help at all, because when people see Trevor, they think championship. And we've had experience with him, and we've won, and we've had success with him, and he's hanging around doing nothing. Let's get him in here.
I just want to point this out. He's not hanging around.
Well,
he owns a place in Perth, right? So that's
He's at the games.
You're right. He's calling the games, but I know what you're saying.
Then they sit the call team right there.
Right there. I know. You are right. You spoke to Trevor Gleeson. When we get to New Zealand, you spoke to Trev, haven't you, recently?
I spoke to him a few days ago.
Yeah.
It seems like he would like his summer off. He's spending time with family. He's got different engagements that he's doing. And so, again, as much as the sort of ghost of the Wildcats' success is sitting right there in Trev, and also Damien Martin and these guys, and even Jesse Wagstaff sort of just sitting at the end of the bench and everyone's celebrating his 450. It doesn't feel like he wants to just take this job, and also he doesn't want to be that guy that speaks ill of John Rillie, because this team is trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And he's getting paid by Toronto still, right? So he doesn't need the job because he's paid, and if he was to take another job, it would just take away the cash that he's earning already in some aspect, right?
That's correct. And I think John Rillie has mentioned it a few times. This team has chemistry issues. They're trying to figure it out, and they're working hard toward that.
All right, New Zealand. Are we looking at an injury replacement to their import? What are you hearing?
Probably. So Zylan Cheatham, 6 to 8 weeks with a fracture in his right foot. Fortunately, it doesn't sound like it's more than that. They thought that there could be some other issues in there, but they've done scans and they've seen probably 6 to 8 weeks with that foot fracture. They proactively looking for a replacement. They're looking for a centre to replace him. They feel as though that is somewhere where they're lacking depth, and they want to bring someone in to bolster their front court. They've been one of the worst defensive teams this season. They need something there. Whether they find someone who's suitable, whether management ticks that off, that's a different question.
It's tough at this time of year to find a high-level guy to only come in for that period of time. It's hard to do. You have to pay overs to be able to get that done. Everyone thinks, well, South East Melbourne were able to do it with Tyler Cook. It's funny, just that period of time makes a big difference. He just didn't have something right then, Tyler Cook, and it was about come over here, rock out, and then pick up something for the rest of the season. Right now, guys are looking for season-long deals. So it's very, very difficult to find. And so I suspect they may not find what they're looking for at the price that they're willing to pay. And they're just going to ride it out here with Mango Matiang and Dane Pinot. And if that's the case, they're up against it.
Modi Mayor had this to say after the game.
Our fans should be proud of the level of effort that our guys put in. They should be proud of how much these guys care. And they should know that we will not keep working until we start winning games.
There you go. Be proud. Going to keep working until they start winning games. It seems like a fairly simple formula, but one that in the last couple of weeks has eluded them.
Yeah, and look, they've got the Cairns Taipans next. The Taipans they're feeling themselves lately, and you know they're a team that's also dealing with some injury battles as well. So,
well, just on that, what are you hearing about Pat Miller? Because it was, it looked pretty bad. Obviously, the back, he hit his head as well. Yeah. What are you hearing?
Seems like the back was the concern, and he got scans yesterday. We're still waiting to hear the severity of that. They should have Taron Armstrong back for the next game, right? We haven't seen him in the regular season. We saw him in one NBA, NBL game, but that fall was tough. And so we're waiting to hear the severity of that, but he had scans yesterday.
Just quietly, if there's one NBL player who I think could handle that fall, I mean, he's an absolute tank. And so, look, he's so sore. Remember Tajir McCall had a similar type of issue. Was it last season? The season before? It would shock me if he's back this week.
It wouldn't stun me. Olgun, anything under the radar you need to put on the agenda, or are we all good?
Nothing under the radar. Still waiting to see what Adelaide does with the input that they're theoretically looking at. Other than that, just fun to see the sort of ups and downs of this season. That Tassie and Brisbane have the same record right now. That's what this league is like.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Olgun Ulick, ESPN. Quick break. The MVP, all well proclaimed by himself, and he's flying. It's Big Sauce. Alan Williams will join us next.
First and foremost, I think that the biggest fault for myself is putting the pressure on myself. So I'm going to come out and say I'll be the MVP of NBL.
Whoa! Plenty of contact. Muscles his way in from close range. Sauce is loving it.
Sure does. Just lives in that high post area for good reason when you've got a touch like that for a big man.
And the big Sauce provides it. He loves it too.
He most certainly does. Big call from one of the biggest men in the league. Sauce, Alan Williams in the house. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, fantastic. You know, had a good weekend. Great weekend for us. So.
4 and zip. 4 and zip since you're into it. You've called yourself the MVP before the season started. So before I let you loose, Copes, who is leading the MVP? Is it our man?
He's close.
That's a no.
I'll take it.
No. I'm just saying that because he's sitting there. But yeah, I'll give it to him right now.
Give it to him.
He's doing well, man. They're 4-0 since he joined. He's talking smack. He's rocking babies to sleep. He's putting on a show, and I love it.
Who you got?
He's killing.
Yeah.
What is it, 19 and 10?
Some close to that.
Have they lost? Have you lost this
Not
season?
yet. Not yet.
Hasn't lost 4 wins in a row. They're second on the ladder.
Yeah.
It'd be tough for him not to be. I mean, Nathan Soapy's also been excellent. What are they, 4 and 4?
Yeah.
But he's second in the league in scoring, and he's coming up big for him in big moments.
Your team has to be winning too, as well. Though.
Yeah,
of course.
I mean, if you handed the Andrew Gaze Trophy out right now, it would go to the big fella.
Well, we would do it on the show. Like, legitimately, it would have to be on this show. We'd hand it over.
He ain't won it.
Jeez, he changed quickly.
If you're asking me, I wouldn't even put myself there. Obviously,
Who would you? Who would right now? When you watch more games than almost anyone. What do you make of the MVP conversation?
I think I got a surprise pick, and it hurts me to say it because he plays for our biggest rival, but I think it's CG43. I think it's Chris Golding. His ability to impact that team, being the leader on that team, averaging 16 points a game, leading the league almost 4 made 3-pointers per game, and just that intensity and energy that he plays with for that squad. Best player, best team, to me equals MVP. That's what the case has been in a lot of situations. So
there you go.
And I love Golding. I love him. But because there's so many superstars on that team, and they spread the love, it's hard to say he's the. Because some nights he does it. Some nights Clark does it. Some nights, Joe does it. Yeah. Porter's playing great. Yeah. So I'm still
right now. Would you have a Melbourne United player in your NBL first team?
CG, Liam.
Probably CG.
I would probably say yes,
Milton
but
Doyle, CG.
that speaks to your depth, right, of Melbourne United.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? Oh, sorry, man.
No, you're right. Daly, Hook Porty, Joe Lawal, CG, Ian Clark. There are a lot of guys playing really well.
Committee. How you feeling, man? You're feeling good. You're talking as Coach Spin. You're 4 and zip. You bullied around a couple of teams on the weekend. You feel good?
Yeah, no, feeling great. We've had a great week of training leading up into this week coming up. Obviously playing against a hot Brisbane team coming up on Thursday, and so we're really locked in and focused and understand that we haven't reached anywhere that we want to be yet. Obviously 4 wins is great, but the goal at the end of the day is to hold up that trophy, and that's what we're working towards as we go through it.
You guys were absolutely killing against the Breakers. You're up 26, just completely tearing them apart. You were just monstering dudes. Mismatch here with Anthony Lamb, and you just get to your spot and make a play. What happened in the fourth quarter?
That is a great question. A question that I was anticipating having to answer on today's episode.
Clutch.
Big shot. But no, I think that the biggest thing that happened is we took our foot off the gas, and it's something that we have to work on. It's something that we have to get in our minds that the game isn't over until the clock hits 0-0-0. And credit to New Zealand for their fight back in that fourth quarter, and obviously it was a good push, and it challenged us to be able to change how we looked at things, had to get into our zone offense, had to figure out different ways defensively, but at the end of the day, we were able to get the win, and that's what we were able to take home and really be proud of, is the fact that we withstood that run and ended up getting a dub at the end of the day.
Now, you're playing against Brisbane coming up. Baines is strong. He's coming back. You're going to be excited about coming back, playing well. How do you play him? You can't bully him like you bully some of the other guys in the league. How do you perform in front of him? How do you play against him?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously coming up, he's a great player, obviously one of the better players that we have in this league. And like you said, he is really, really strong. I think it's just a matter of using our pace and playing with pace and getting the ball out and running as best as we can and letting guys like Will Cummings and Gary Brown get downhill and create opportunities for us to be able to eat off of what they do.
You on the box, though. You on the box. I'm talking about you.
Are you asking what my move is? It's a right hook every time. That's what the scout says all the time. But, you know.
It's not going to change no matter who it is, right? Because you don't need to actually knock the guy over.
Sure.
You just need to just create a little bit of space to get it off.
And I'll give a little trick to the trade. I do my work early. And so before the even ball comes down, I'm running down and my mind is, okay, how can I get as close to the basket as possible? So I have nuances and ways, whether it's a swim move, whether it's an elbow here to create that space, whether it's a little bit of a grab that you may not be able to see on the telecast. It's different ways that I can establish myself on the block and get the ball where I want to and go back to that point, Liam, get to the spots that I want to get to.
You keep those bows down on my man.
Yeah, keep it low. Rocco ain't got no more bows coming your way.
The bow, that's done now, right?
You
know, I'm just saying.
No, I'll be honest. I don't think many referees watch this show, to be fair, due to some comments in the past. But I hope they aren't, because I'll be looking a little closely. I just want to go back to last weekend. What does Coach Mike Kelly? What do you mostly review on Monday or Tuesday? Do you review how good the team was for 3 quarters where you were so dominant, or do you look more deeper into the 4th quarter as to when you didn't quite play it out the way that you should have?
Yeah, obviously every team's a little different, but I think the overall consensus after a weekend, after a win like we had, was to go through and see what we really did well to establish that lead. We were up 26 points in the 3rd quarter, so we did a lot of good things right. And then you break down and figure out what the heck happened to us to be able to allow them to get back into that game. And so it was a lot of defensive reviews. It was a lot of players calling out other players and letting each other know and holding each other accountable so that we can not make that mistake in the future. And I think a lot of teams in the NBL had that kind of review, because this season has shown that the game's not over until it's all the way over.
Right.
So.
What happened in your reviews back in the day? Did Lindsay focus on the positives or the negatives?
It wasn't a lot of reviews, man. We had VHS tapes and it was hard to go clean.
It feels like that there was reviews that Copes didn't go because he got stuck at depot and missed out.
The review was just the box score.
It was
like Drew being like, man, damn, Copes gets him up.
Too many shots this game.
And Coach would be like, man, turns, are you stopping someone, Gazy? Hey, clutch players, speaking of 2 of the greats in Gaze and Copes, let's just quickly look at Tyler Harvey last weekend, because we love game winners, we love buzzer beaters, we love huge shots late. Tyler Harvey is, well, this is not the first time we have seen it, of course. Gets open, bang! Right in front. It's always good when they do it in front of the opposition bench as well, and they're just heartbroken, and Tyler Harvey is nicely pumped up. It isn't the first time we have seen this from this man. Of course, last year in New Zealand, similar thing, full court, clear out, under 10 seconds, down a point against a really good team in front of the home fans, and he shoots it from the Hungry Jack logo. Bang! Weird uniforms, I still stand by it, but it doesn't matter when you get the point. So, I'm going to start with you, Sauce. Who is the most clutch player in the NBL?
As great as Tyler Harvey has been in those clutch situations, and he's always on the scout, that no matter what kind of game he's having prior to, you got to find him at the end of it. My guy is Milton Doyle, though.
Yeah.
I think his ability to really control the game in the 4th quarter, in these past 2 seasons that we've seen him in the NBL, he's been able to do that at a really high level. He makes the right reads, makes the right shots, the big shots, and he's not afraid of that moment. Although his demeanor may be a little bit quiet and at sometimes stoic, I feel like he always has that dog in him at the end of the game.
Our man Andrew Gaz has been talking about Milton, says he reminds him a little bit of Leroy.
Yeah.
Great comment from Body Naj, legendary NBL writer, recently saying, actually, he sees a lot of Robert Rose in Milton Doyle. Now, you may or may not know of Robert Rose, but super clutch.
Yeah.
And just super cool in those big moments.
Yes, he was. Robert Rose was a great defender, but could knock down the open shot when he had to win games, and he did that a couple of times. Yes, he did.
Ironically, replaced a guy named Milt
Newton. Did he really?
Newton, yeah, in 1993.
Yeah, great memory.
I have.
Big time.
I remember too, because had Milton Newton stayed, Copes might have won that championship that year, but Rob Rose come in and they beat him in 3. Too soon?
Wow.
You
Too
said
soon?
93? That was
92.
Oh,
92. He won 93.
I was born in 93. That championship team, that was.
Went on to become an NBA GM.
He did.
Milton Newton.
He did too. Hey, good luck this weekend, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
Love it.
killing, man.
Big Sauce. He
Hey,
is
don't
killing
let no
it.
egg go.
The only person not on the bandwagon is Leonard Copeland. That includes.
Wow.
Well, are you right? You're still saying you're going to bring an egg
Bring
in?
an egg or not?
Not next week, but the week after.
That's the definition of not being on the bandwagon. Big break, plenty more NBL overtime next.
DJ Vasiljevic is a flat-out scorer. I've been knowing this kid for a very long time. Not everyone's high on him, but I know if you put the ball in his hands, he's going to be the best scorer on that team. He has a scorer's mentality. If you watched him when he played with the Sydney Kings, he was surrounded by superstars. So whenever he did get the ball, 9 times out of 10, he was going to shoot it or knock it down. And when he made one, he's going to take that second and third, and he's capable of scoring 30 points on this team.
A couple of weeks ago in NBL Overtime, Leonard Copeland, you called it, and DJ Vasiljevic has had a great start to his 36ers career. And they are humming on the back of it. There's a much different feel, much different vibe, and they're playing good ball. He is playing really well.
He's averaging, 19 points a game.
You know what he's averaging, mate. You were doing the numbers before.
Well, I'm just you're such a funny guy. 19 points a game, but the thing that he brings is threat.
Yeah.
Now you got to guard somebody outside, so it opens it up for the bigs inside. It opens it up for everyone else, and he's always a threat. You can never leave him open. And look at what he's doing now. He's taking the ball to the hole. He's knocking the shot down. He's playing smart basketball. And he has those guys. He has the people in Adelaide feeling good about themselves.
I think in the clip that you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, you spoke about the fact that, Sydney were very well-rounded, back-to-back championships, a really deep team. So he had to play a particular role, one of which here with CJ giving him the green light, and he's definitely improved. He spoke about that. I've spoke about the fact that off the dribble he looks better. His passing is better than I've probably anticipated in the past. He is, given the opportunity, showing us a really different DJ Vasiljevic from what he can do, not just catch and shoot, which is probably predominantly what we got to know him as.
He's been doing this for years and years. He grew up doing this. So it's the mentality. And he puts the time in. I've seen him in the gym 3-4 hours working on that shot, and it's pure.
I actually think also, he's gotten better defensively these last couple of years, playing under Chase Buford. He enjoys those roles of guarding guys similar to him, scorers who are going to run off picks, and he knows how to kind of lock and trail, and he guards them how he knows he should be guarded in those situations. But he's enjoying the opportunity to be the man.
Yeah.
And importantly, the team is winning. They've won 2 in a row. Now, they've won 3 of their last 4. That first win came without him. But you're right, there's a good energy around that. Who I'm not sure who they play this week.
They play Perth Saturday night, I think. I think it's Perth. I do apologise if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain it is at home.
There we go. Yeah, they're rolling.
And it's good to see him play. Now, Sydney, Tassie, zipping 2 weekends. A week ago, in particular, Tassie were pushing it. Any concerns?
With Tassie?
Either team.
Sydney or Tassie? I think I've got more concerns over Sydney than I do Tassie. Tassie's issues are at the defensive end. And I back Scott Roth in to turn that around with that group over the course of the season. Sydney, I think, are still working a lot of things out.
Yeah.
And I asked the question right at the start of the season, well, what is this going to look like with DJ Hogue?
Yep.
They are going to need him. He was all NBL second team last year. And they're going to need him to be that same type of level, if not better, this year, the way this team is built. Let's see how that goes.
I'm not concerned about Sydney. I think they'll be okay because DJ just got back.
Yep.
Got to give him some time to breathe, okay? The thing I love about Sydney is the history and that bench. They've been there 2 years in a row, and they know how to push the starting 5 and get them to where they need to go. Smart coach, from what I'm hearing, he knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing, all right? Sometimes you can have championship fatigue, you know what I mean? And so they're in a bit of a lull right now. But there's enough talent on that team that they're going to make some run. They're going to make a run.
They will.
And they'll be right there. I think they'll be fine.
I've got no concern with either team. But injury is my only concern because Sydney obviously had Hogue. Slowish start, so the chemistry was stalled a little bit to kickstart the year. And Galloway, of course, gets hurt when he was playing really good basketball.
But we didn't expect Galloway to be playing that way, did we?
We didn't.
That's right.
In fact, we didn't probably expect Sydney to play as well as they did early doors. So this is probably more Saturday night was more indicative of what people thought was going to take a little bit of time to get going.
I know, you're right. I think we were more shocked that they were humming so early.
Yes.
You said that yourself. And now with guys coming in and out of the lineup, but they weren't.
Makes it tough.
Yeah, they didn't look. I didn't really think they looked all that great over the weekend. Lacked energy and just weren't at that same type of level that you're used to seeing from the Sydney Kings.
NBL Overtime, hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved via all our socials. Sanders watching, and of course the award-winning Yes or No is next.
Here we go, boys. Santa's watching. Pat Miller in the gong. Boy.
Whoa.
Keep Bobby Clement is 6'10".
Yeah.
6'10". What are you throwing it to, bro?
You thought he was faster.
Throwing it hard, too. Look at it.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, same game, and it's a little bit of love from Adam Ford. I love the coaches who look up and know they're on the screen. Bam.
Yeah.
He's happy with the free throw. Wooshka. And fellas,
Hit me.
our man Scott Roth. Mm-hmm. He goes into the press conference, and I'm just not entirely sure he's fully across how many teams are in this league.
Okay.
And as I've told these guys from day one, if it doesn't get up in those categories of being better and defending the three-point line and keeping guys off the foul line, you're just in for a long season. You'll finish 10, 11, 12, 13, 14th on the ladder. We'll finish below the top 10 teams.
I don't think they'll finish below the top 10 teams, just quietly.
Oh, that's funny.
He knew that too, dude. He had a little smile on his face. I like it.
I think
All
he worked
right.
it out halfway through.
I like it. Hey, yes or no, Stinger, guys?
Oh.
Nah,
Cool. All right. Is Chris Golding the best Australian player in the league?
Yes.
Yes. Will Xavier Cooks be playing Christmas Day for the Kings?
No.
Does not having legit back-to-back games like Friday, Saturdays diminish home court advantage?
No.
Should we invite a couple of international teams for next year's Blitz?
Yes.
Would the NBL benefit from having an NBA-sized court?
Yes.
Will Mitch Creek be in the Boomers squad for camp prior to the Olympics?
No.
There you go. Yes or no?
That's it.
Well, it's only 6 questions, the same as every other
Award-winning.
week. Huh?
Award-winning stuff.
Yeah, short and sweet. Oh, mate. Short and sweet. Santa's watching, rolls in with 4 seconds.
no,
Of Come on, man.
Slipping, Cam.
Hey, that's not slipping at all. I get told. That's 6 yes or no's every single week.
Award-winning, though.
Hold on. Chris Golding or Mitch Craig? Who's the best Australian in the league?
I'd rather have Chris Golding myself, so I'm going Chris Golding.
Where's Xavier Cooks?
I mean, Craig is fantastic now. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Where do you reckon Xavier Cooks is going to go? Stay in the NBA? Or do you reckon you want to have a nice little European deal?
Not sure. I think
he's coming up. He needs to be playing somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
That's the big thing. I know we spoke about it. You need to be able to play consistent basketball, which even if you're in the NBA doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to do that. It's a tough one.
Do you think Mitch Creek's going to be in that Australian squad?
I think that he absolutely.
Yes or no?
Yes,
I think he
he will.
deserves to be in. Yes.
I think he will.
He
And if it's
deserves
not,
No doubt.
and if he's not, it's political.
Yeah.
Legitimately, he deserves to be there.
Legitimately.
Certainly.